It's been 5 years since we moved onto this barren property, and in that time, it's gone through significant transformations. So today, I want to show you all the work that we've been doing in order to build a beautiful garden and an amazing backyard homestead. Come on. My wife and I have been working so hard in order to transform this yard back here, and it really has become our paradise, our Garden of Eden, and that's really where it started. Building this amazing garden right here, and it did not always look this way. 5 years it has taken for us to get here, and now it supplies a very large portion of our food, and it's amazing, such an amazing accomplishment. You can see our brand new setup of Birdies raised beds all along here, and I think they just look absolutely fantastic. And I'll have to tell you, it was a lot of work transitioning the garden from what it looked like to putting in all these raised beds, filling it up with the perfect soil that our garden needs in order to thrive. But at the end of the day, I know it's worth it, and I can already see that it's worth it. I just wanted to go through really quick on all the beds that we have here, what we're growing, and kind of the progression that I'm expecting to see throughout the year. This is the classic bed that I always grow, my mixture of carrots and spinach, and we downsize a lot this year because this year we really want to be as efficient as we possibly can. Use the space completely all the time. So we've got a row of spinach here, and then we've got carrots in succession. As you can see, these are the oldest. We've got a second planting and a third planting. Overall, they look really well. And look at this spinach right here. This is what homegrown spinach looks like as compared to your baby spinach in the stores. Just looks absolutely gorgeous, especially with that rain from last night coming on here. Over to our next two beds, our covered beds. We've got the white moths floating around. You can see them doing their business. We've got our brassica beds. We've got some cabbages and kohlrabi and onions in here. Let's just take this off. Remove the curtain just to see how gorgeous these plants are. This is what preparation looks like. Got two cabbages here. This is a early Jersey Wakefield and Savoy cabbage. Look at those heads starting to form up. This one's really close to being ready. Just looking phenomenal. We've got a green acre cabbage here, a red acre cabbage here, and the first time I'm growing kohlrabi. And it's like an alien crop. Look at that head that's forming down there. This is really close to harvest. I'm kind of tempted to do it now, but I'm not going to just because I want to see it get a little bit larger. But all these crops I've experimented with this year, and again, preparation, ensuring that you're doing the right thing at setup is what is going to make your garden successful. And if you want to know exactly how I set up these raised beds, definitely go check out this video right here on how to set up a raised bed start to finish to produce amazing crops like this. I am going to grab my bucket and my pruners because in this bed right here, we've got broccoli, cauliflower, borage, and nasturtiums, and they are ready to harvest. I'm excited to eat some fresh broccoli from the garden tonight. So let's see what we've got here. Come and look at these. We've got 8 broccoli plants. We actually lost one right here. That's okay. It opened up some space from some nasturtiums. But look at this broccoli head in pristine condition. As you can see, these little florets are just starting to open up. So it might be like a day late, but we're gonna go ahead and harvest this broccoli right now. The amazing thing about this variety of broccoli is that I'm gonna cut this head off, and it's actually going to grow a few smaller broccoli heads after that. Look at that. Beautiful. Can't ask for anything better. Take these leaves off. Probably give these to the chickens later. Yeah, we've got chickens too. Get that in there, and look at this cauliflower over here. I'm not going to harvest this one quite yet, but again, nice tight cauliflower head. Looking really good. I'm so happy with this bed. And you notice on both of my beds, I've got these coverings here. This is to ensure those cabbage moths stay off of our broccoli, our brassica plants, because they will absolutely destroy them. We had some issues with them earlier in the year, and putting these row covers on has significantly helped these brassicas grow. And we actually did a reel or a short on everything that we do in order to protect our brassicas, so definitely go check that out as well. I think it's really helpful. If you want to grow perfect brassicas like this, you've got to cover them. You've got to prevent those pests from coming in. Honestly, let's talk about a failure now. This bed right here. Not every single bed is going to be a success, and that's just reality of life. In this bed we had cauliflower. You could still see it's trying to hang on here. This is what it looks like when you don't cover your brassica plants. Bugs just tearing it up. You can see a cabbage worm right here, and this thing is just gonna eat this alive. We had 4 cauliflower plants, and they just didn't transplant well. And we also had onions down this whole side here and shallots, and they all died. These are actually brand new plantings, so I'm honestly not sure if these are going to even bulb up the way that I would expect. I'm not expecting them to bulb up actually. And then we had some celery planted in the middle. None of it was successful. So what I did was planted some zucchini and squash, which is what you could see right here. And these are going to completely take over this bed, hopefully reset everything, and we'll get a nice harvest out of those later in the season. But backing away from our failures, we'll go back to our successes. And this bed is my favorite bed in the garden as of right now for this season. Just look at it. It's lush, it's green, it looks absolutely gorgeous. We've got lettuce plants planted along here, and I'm actually gonna have to get my bucket again because I'm gonna be harvesting these. These are all butter crunch lettuce plants. They look gorgeous. In the middle, we've got some more brassicas. We've got lacinato kale, premier kale, Bates kale, and we had some arugula that has started to bolt, so I'm gonna have to replace that. The trick with growing arugula successfully is always have more as a backup. As soon as you see this start to bolt, you should have some growing already in some 6-cell trays, and rip these out, immediately put a new plant in, because arugula bolts very, very quickly. And it's already starting to taste a little bit bitter. I mean, granted, it still tastes pretty good, but you could taste the bitterness coming on. But after these plants had started to grow, we planted some potatoes, and you could see them popping up through here. So our leafy greens aren't going to grow all through the season. So as we harvest those, these potatoes are going to start to take over, and they're going to completely fill out this bed. And then we'll be able to harvest these potatoes in about another month and a half. And then we'll be getting ready for our fall plantings. But overall, this bed is proof of how productive you could be in such a small space. One Birdies raised bed, and we have 6, 7, 8 different types of crops growing. If you're a new gardener, this is all you need to get started, and it'll make you feel so accomplished getting all of this out of one raised bed. And that's when you can improve or add another bed on, or 2 beds or 3 beds on the next year, and really start to step up your game. Become experts on the basics, learn what you need that's essential in the garden, and then start to ramp up your game. Over here, we've got some more potatoes, and we've got some peas mixed in. We've got some Amish snap peas. These peas are gonna grow to be like 6 feet tall, and we've got some already forming on here. I'll take one, gotta take a bite. Beautiful snap peas. So sweet and delicious, especially in this morning. But we've got our peas on our trellises here. This is just conduit trellis. So this is conduit, which is what they use in order to run electrical wire through. And I'm using this maker pipe system in order to connect them all together. I really liked it so far. I've got 2 different examples of my trellis here. This is literally just 3 pieces of conduit, and this one's a little bit more robust. I honestly don't even think you need this setup right here. Just having 3 pieces of conduit and this netting that costs about $5 for both of these, and you've got yourself a perfect pea trellis. And again, we've interplanted our potatoes. So we've got at least 40 potato plants growing here, and it's gonna produce an amazing harvest in the next few months. Coming around the bend, we've got the 2 beds that have been getting the most attention this year, and that is our garlic tomato bed. So last fall, we planted these garlics in 3 rows with pretty good spacing, knowing that we were going to be pulling them out relatively soon, probably within the next 4 to 6 weeks. all this garlic is going to come out. So what I did a few weeks back was interplanted our tomato plants, and they seem to be doing absolutely amazing. Look at the green, the color on these tomato plants. These things are thriving, and they've grown so much in the past few weeks. I don't think there's going to be any problems harvesting these garlics at all. A lot of people were asking me, do you think that you're going to disturb the roots where it's going to cause the plants to die? Honestly, I think it's going to be okay, but we're all going to find out together because I've never densely planted a bed like this before. So in the next month or so, we'll be doing updates on our other social channels. So definitely go check us out, follow us over there, and you'll be getting the most up-to-date information as to these. But I can't talk about this bed without talking about our trellis, the lean and lower system. I've been getting a lot of questions on this as well, and it's really pretty simple. I grow my tomatoes up 1 central liter, so I don't allow them to branch out. I prune off all the suckers. I'll keep it simple in regards to that for now, because we do have a video on pruning coming out very soon. So let us know in the comments if you're interested in seeing that video. But all we have are these J-hooks that are all raveled up. As this tomato grows, once it reaches the top of the trellis, we'll unravel this J-hook to make this string longer, and then the tomato will be allowed to like bend out and then come up. So it'll support the growth of the tomato plants all year long, and we're gonna get some amazing harvests on it again this year. Let's swing around and talk about the last few beds. These beds I designed and built myself, and we actually have the plans for sale on Etsy. So if you're looking to make some cedar raised beds of your own, definitely go check that out, and I'll put a link in the profile description. I think they came out absolutely amazing. I'm a builder at heart, so even though I got myself some amazing Birdies raised beds, I had to build these as well. This year, I'm completely resetting these beds by growing beans in all of them. These 2 beds are going to be all green beans, and we're growing 8 different varieties of green beans. So it's going to be nice to have a crop that we can prepare and can and store, so that way we can eat from the garden literally all year long. Back here, you can see we've got our cattle panel trellises set up, and I'm really excited. Have never had cattle panel trellises. This year is the year. So we've got pole beans growing up the back that have started, and they're going to completely take over this trellis, hopefully. And then we've got some squashes, which you can see right here. We've got 1 bed, I believe this bed is spaghetti squash, and over here we have Pennsylvania Dutch crookneck squash. And these plants are going to be growing here all season long until they die off in the fall. So it's going to be amazing to see these squashes and beans carry over this and have a nice place to rest and find shade in the middle of that hot summer. Our pepper bed, literally all different types of peppers. We have 7 different varieties of peppers and 14 pepper plants total. And we always get amazing pepper harvests. I don't know what it is. I honestly don't do anything special or creative compared to my other plants. I baby them when they're babies. I plant them. But again, preparing the soil is what you need to do in order to grow your veggies successfully. And you've probably noticed that I'm using tomato cages. I don't know why they call them tomato cages. If I would name them, I would call them pepper cages, because these tomato cages, I want to say pepper cages, so I'm going to. These pepper cages are the best things that you can use in order to support your peppers. So if you're growing pepper plants, definitely use them. 1, it provides the necessary structure for them, but it also provides the proper spacing. I've been doing this for 4 years now, using this method to grow my peppers, and it works fantastic every single time. I don't prune them, I don't top them, I just let them grow, and they'll fill out this whole space. You'll see by the end of the year, this whole area is going to be filled out, and these pepper plants are probably going to be almost as tall as I am. Lastly, behind me, we've got some hot pepper plants in the back. We've got some green onions here, some scallions, and these beautiful beets. 2 rows of beets and some eggplant. But I want to see if I can harvest some of these beets right here. This is a great one. I'm just going to pull this one out right here. To me, beets are one of the most enjoyable fresh veggies out of the garden. Not a huge one, but look at that color. Doesn't get better than that. That really sums it up for the garden tour. But really, this is just the beginning. Looking this way, I've got my eyes on our blackberries and raspberries. So let's head on over there and look at what we've established. some beautiful and delicious berry plants. Blackberries and raspberries. As you can see, we've got a pretty good setup. We've got our blackberry trellis. We've got all blackberry plants here, with the exception of this one raspberry plant, new plant from last year. And on this side, we've got all of our raspberry plants and an elderberry behind me. I'm really excited. Just look how big these plants are. These raspberries have completely taken over from when we planted them 3 years ago, and they spread like crazy. If I were to fix this, I think I would pull this trellis another few feet off the fence line, but overall we have been able to manage it, and we're expecting a huge blackberry crop this year. On our Navajo blackberries right here, you can already see them starting to form. They've got a few more months ahead of them, maybe about 6 to 8 weeks before they actually turn black and are ready to harvest. But just look at all the berries on our blackberries. Same thing with these raspberries. I can already see the raspberries starting to form. We didn't really get raspberries very much last season, but seeing how these are just pumping out new growth, and look at all of this on here, it's gonna be a very bountiful year for these berries. Oh, we got a bee visiting us. Look at it right here, this little honeybee. Thanks for pollinating our berries there. That's an awesome thing to see. Right behind me, we've got the chicken run. So let's go around the shed, which the chicken coop is built into, and let's go meet the girls. Welcome to our chicken run. And as I said, our chicken coop is actually built into our shed. And one thing that I really want to do is transform their old run, which I'm standing in, into their new chicken coop. It's gonna bring me a bunch of space that I would love to have back in my shed and put them out here into honestly a much bigger and manageable coop. We'll take you all around this run, and I'll show you the kinds of things that I'm considering into my new design, which is why I think it's gonna be so much better for the girls and for the homestead. We've got one of our nosiest chickens right here, little Neptune. She's always in our business, always squawking around. She always wants to know what's going on. But in our chicken run back here, this is actually an easement, and where we live, we are allowed to have chickens, which is absolutely fantastic. I understand that a lot of places where people live, especially if you're in the city, you can't have chickens, but one thing that you can try to do is put in a permit. And even if you can have 3 chickens, it's better than having none. So if you really are looking to get chickens, contact your city, see if you can get a permit, get yourself some chickens. It's such a rewarding experience, and they're honestly the easiest pets I have ever owned, and they produce you food. So multiple benefits to owning chickens. Behind me, this beautiful elderberry bush. Elderberry is native in Virginia, and you can see it's absolutely flourishing. There's gotta be thousands of flowers on this elderberry bush. It's gonna give us thousands of berries this year. An amazing medicinal crop. I love to harvest the berries and make teas and syrups out of them. Absolutely perfect for the winter when it's cold and flu season. Oh, it's just fantastic. We got our boy Rodney down here, protector. He really is such a great rooster. Don't have problems with him at all. But you can see the importance of having all of this vegetation in a run back here. These girls are under here all the time. It produces great protection for them out of the elements, because chickens really don't do great in the heat, but they're just chilling under here. They come out when they need to, and they're just loving life. That was one of my big goals for the landscape back here, was to plant a lot of native plants that are gonna work for the chickens, produce food for them, leave droppage. You can see that there's barely any weeds back here. They till up the soil. They're getting a lot of good nutrition, and they're very healthy back here. Coming back this way, we've got some more plants, and we have also got our composting system and our leaf mold or leaf storage system. And the leaves are what I use for my mulching on all of my raised beds. I've experimented with a bunch of different things. I tried straw for a while. I tried cover crops. I tried weeds, cutting up weeds. But the nice thing about leaves is that there's no weed seeds or seeds of any type in it. And as it breaks down, it's gonna add lots of great things to the soil. So whenever I can, in the fall, I go around my neighborhood, collect as many leaves as I possibly can, and store them in here. And last but not least, back here we have our compost bins, going over some sort of renovation right now. My goal is to put a gate for the chickens right here eventually. So I'm working on removing this compost bin and transitioning it to somewhere else. But if you're interested in making compost, I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do here on the homestead. It's just amazing to see what you can do taking all of your garden waste and kitchen scraps and chicken manure and mixing it all together and creating something that's absolutely beneficial for the garden. I've made numerous batches of successful compost here, and just look at what you can create. Absolutely amazing stuff that I'm going to add into my garden, and it's going to help it flourish even more. I've got lots of different composting videos, and I'll put my favorite one, the link to it, right here. So if you want to learn how to compost, definitely go check it out. Now that we've talked about the chicken run, I want to head over to all of our in-ground gardens and our greenhouse and talk about how we are implementing more perennials on the homestead. In the garden is where we have all of our vegetables, our annual vegetables, and on this side of our property is where we have all of our perennial plants, at least the majority of them. I've got a pear tree right behind me. We've also got a 4-in-1 apple tree, a mulberry, a kiwi, a fig tree, and another pear tree over by our stock tank. They really add such an amazing bounty to the homestead because all they do is continue to produce food year after year after year. So over here is really where the magic happens and where we're starting to establish more of those perennials and bring in the pollinators and attract all of that beneficial wildlife. So I just love this area of the garden. It's all mulched out, it's pumping out food, and it's really establishing itself, and it's going to become an even more important part on the homestead for years to come. I want to head all the way to the back first where our asparagus is, and you can just see what's going on along the way. One of the first perennials we put in was asparagus over 3 years ago, and this is completely ferned out now because it's already late in the season. Asparagus is one of the first crops to grow, and if you want to learn more about growing asparagus, we just put out a video and you can watch it right here. But it's got to be one of my favorite edible perennials that we've planted in the garden, so much so that we planted another 20-foot row along our fence over here. But asparagus is one of the best because once you establish it, it's going to grow for 15 to 20, even 30 years. So again, it just shows the importance of putting perennial plants in your garden. Coming right around here, we've got blueberry bushes. We've got 5 blueberry bushes right now, all the high bush variety. Again, these are native to Virginia, which beneficial to us, beneficial to the wildlife. Gotta love it. Just look at that pod of blueberries right there. It's so fun to be able to just step out my back door, harvest some fruit, and really just enjoy all the work that you've put in here. Coming around, we put in a complete rain pollinator garden, which has taken full form this season. The black-eyed Susans have completely filled in. We've got some butterfly weed that's really starting to show strong. We've got some echinacea, and we've also got a butterfly bush that is just starting to come up again that's going to eventually completely take over this space. The benefits of this is that we have really heavy clay soil. So planting these is really going to help absorb all that water, put it into the plants, attract in those beneficials that are going to help pollinate our garden and give us better yields overall. Another great crop that we have here is comfrey, and we've got this planted all over the garden. It's accumulator, so it extracts nutrients really deep in the soil. We can pull off these weeds, chop and drop, and then it's going to help our plants grow. We've got our fig tree right here. It's 3 years old now, so I'm expecting to get some figs off this tree this year, and I've got some more figs that I've got propagating inside from cuttings, so I'm really excited to work more with figs and get them established all over the property. I just put in some artichokes this year for the first time. There's actually a really funny story behind these. We have a local zoo in our area, and they have a beautiful vegetable garden. And I noticed that the last time we were there, their artichoke had flowered and went to seed. So I actually took some seeds, I named it the zoo artichoke, and I planted them, and now they're growing. So I'm really excited to see what we get off these 2 plants. The great thing about artichokes is as they grow, you can cut them back in the fall. You can split the roots and then expand it even further through the garden. So this really is a warmer zone crop, but even if you're up in a cooler zone, you can experiment with it as an annual. Behind me, we obviously have the greenhouse. I've done full tours and videos on the greenhouse. In there, it's honestly pretty barren right now. We've got some leafy greens growing and some potatoes that we just didn't harvest from last year that made their way in there and are growing again. So I'm letting them grow. You can kind of see them in the back there. So we're just gonna let those potatoes do their thing. But one thing I'm going to experiment with is growing squash inside the greenhouse, which will completely isolate it from the environment and hopefully alleviate all of the issues that we have from the squash vine borer and squash bugs. So I'm really excited to experiment with that later in the season. One thing that I would say that we are known for on our channel is our sweet potatoes. And last year we had a huge harvest out of this bed right here. We harvested about 70 pounds of sweet potatoes from this bed, and this whole area was just completely taken over by sweet potato greens. This year, we're growing them in our raised beds, and I'm expecting a very similar result. So I've got 2 raised beds here, and you see I've got 3 sweet potato plants in each one, and then we've also got another Birdies raised bed that we've got 6 sweet potatoes in. So in a few short months, this whole area is going to be completely covered by sweet potato greens, and I'm so excited to see it. We're growing 3 varieties this year: white, orange, and purple. So it's going to be really fun to see. One thing I just want to talk about from this raised bed is we had carrots growing, and look at what this carrot has turned into. Just look for proof down here. There's your typical carrot leaves, but look at the top up here forming into flowers. We're going to be saving our own carrot seeds this year. It's really important to allow some of your vegetables to mature, because the whole purpose of having a homestead is to be more self-sufficient. And the only way that you can truly be self-sufficient is by supplying yourself with your own materials year after year after year. And you can do that with your crops by seeding, or allowing your crops to go to seed, collecting them, and using your own seed to grow the next season. Carrots are really easy to do that with, but really start to experiment with your different crops and try to get seeds from as many varieties of plants as you can. And one day you might be able to create a hybrid of your own, but you're going to have seeds and plants that are really adapted to growing well in your area. All right, well, that's going to sum things up for today's 5th year garden and homestead transformation tour. And I really hoped that you enjoyed coming along on our journey today. We've put a lot of time and effort into transforming this landscape, building this beautiful garden, and adding a bunch of beneficial perennials to our landscape that truly benefit us as well as the environment around us. And if you've seen anything that piques your interest in this video, don't be afraid. Put it down in the comments below, because all we're trying to do here is grow the gardeners in you. We want to do everything that we can. Everyone starts from somewhere, and we've been doing this long enough now where I feel like I can really provide you amazing information for you to get off and running and become a successful gardener as fast as you can. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like this video, and if you are new to our channel, make sure you subscribe, because we're going to be putting out so many amazing videos this season, and we've already put out lots of fantastic content that you can go watch and absorb in order to create your own backyard homestead.